Welcome to the show, Meeting Interesting People. Today, my guest, Laura Duggan, and we will be hearing a lot of interesting stories. But first, I would like to say thank you to the City Hall to reopen Medford Cable Studio TV3. Thanks to manager Benjamin Brown, who is really helpful and getting a lot of support. And I'm glad that my show's back to the air. And we will discuss today with Laura about her very fascinating adventure. So, please.
Well, life is an adventure, especially when you go looking for them. And actually, this one kind of found me. The most recent one I had was a trip to Cuba, which I took in May. An opportunity came. I was taking an art class in Cambridge, and the art teacher started talking about taking some of her students to Cuba for painting, and it got my attention, of course, because Cuba is the place that no one has really been for quite a long time. But I looked it up. It hasn't been till 2014 when President Obama opened it up for people to fly directly from America to Cuba. So anyway, I started thinking about it, and it was just too tempting to turn down. I was too curious. I had another trip just before it, but you know, I don't think it's a problem going from one trip to another, do you?
Well, it's nice if you could.
Well, you just do it, you make it work. And that's what I did. So I basically flew from Boston to Miami, and then I waited for my plane to take off to go to Havana, and I was still waiting to get the papers complete. And I was wondering about the whole visa thing. I was told I would complete some papers before.
So you don't need to go to consulate before apply for the visa. Okay.
No, you do everything through the when you get your ticket. You cannot go to Cuba, by the way, as a tourist. You have to go with some kind of organized trip group, and I was under artists or education. But you can go a variety of humanitarian or various. I think there's 12 categories. So when you get your ticket, you have to check off one of those. But then when you get there, I think it was 30 minutes before the plane was going to take off, the papers finally arrived. I was sitting there wondering, am I really going to Havana? Is this really going to happen? And so I filled them out, and off we go. I got on the plane, and it's about a 45-minute ride till you land in Havana. And I was looking out the window to see what was going to come into my view. And there's a fellow next to me going that's where I live. He's pointing at where he lived because he was returning.
Because you don't speak Spanish.
Un poquito, muy poquito. So he spoke a little English, and all throughout my trip, I just would use a few words. Just say hola. If you say hola, you'll do just fine, because that's what the people in.
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo estás?
They're all saying hola, and very friendly. In fact, that's the first thing I noticed. It was how friendly the people were. So anyway, I get off the plane, and I go to get my luggage, and I can't find my bag, so I'm going, oh no. And I don't speak as I mentioned, a whole lot of Spanish, and I'm watching people pick up bags, and I'm feeling really kind of bad, oh no. And so I motioned to a gentleman that was working there, and I was doing pantomime what was wrong. And he grabbed my ticket, and I'm going, what? And he starts darting, and I'm running after him. He found my bag for me. And then, so I went, gracias, I could do that. And I went in to see the fellow that was going to pick me up. I was told I was going to be picked up and to look for a fellow holding a big sign. And so I came out, and there I saw a fellow with a big sign, and it was his name was Angel, and he's a big black Cuban guy who was just personality plus. So I followed him into the darkness, wondering how I was going to be transported.
Well, the plane arrived at night time?
Yeah, it was at night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Saturday night. So I'm following him, and we got into this vintage classic car, and the driver there was like, hello, hola. And so we drove into the night. So it's like you're driving into complete darkness and going I wonder what's going to happen next here. But all was well, and I finally arrived at my casa. People, when you go to Cuba, it's best to stay in a B&B because that's a lot of the people there are making their rooms available for tourists, or actually non-tourists, but
Right.
people like myself coming there, and they're lovely rooms. Well, mine was air conditioned. Anyway, so I arrived, the bags go there, and I met Laura, who had organized, another Laura.
In Azor, yeah.
Yeah, another Laura. And she said to me, oh, you should go to the Plaza Vieja. You know, it's down there. You see this long walk down there?
Vieja is the old.
Yeah, it's the old plaza.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, meaning old, yeah. And just go down there and you can get something to eat, you know. And so I'm thinking, wow, by myself.
What is it, midnight already?
It's probably about 9.
Okay.
It's 9:30 or something. And I'm thinking, should I stay in my room and be safe? And I said, well, you know, I came all this way. I have to go. So she lent me some Cuban money. I didn't have any of the dollars. So off I went walking down this long, you know, way I could see a little bit of light in the distance until I finally came to the plaza, and it was just hopping because it was Saturday night. So I sat down in one of the outdoor cafes, and I asked them, what should I have? And they said, oh, pork. That's a specialty here. And I had my first mojito too, which is the national drink. It was invented in Havana, you know, and that was the beginning of it all, and it was just a great start.
So what's the mojito? What's included there?
It's some kind of rum drink.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a bar in Havana where it's very historic, where they invented it. Yeah, you have to have a mojito when you get there, apparently. So I was just going by custom.
Yeah.
You know, I had to do it, you know. So that was the very beginning, and everybody was very friendly going back, and I started to get comfortable. And so from that point, oh yeah, we went for a ride in one of these cars. Here's a picture of me, you know, with the
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah, we need
baby-
to tell our viewers that the whole story practically was published in Medford Transcript.
Yes.
In the 3 issues.
Right. While I was on my trip, I often keep a journal. Here's the journal. And I kept a journal throughout this because I knew this was going to be a special trip. And I
Absolutely.
didn't want to forget even a moment of it. So I faithfully kept it up. And even when people were talking, I was, you know, writing and sometimes sketching, you know, that kind of thing, as I was going along. So when I came back, I took out the best parts, which was about 9 pages. And I said, well, I'll send it to the transcript. It's probably too long for them, but I can't shorten it. So I sent it to them, and lo and behold, they said yes, they wanted to publish it, and they would do it in a series. So it came out in 3 parts.
Yes.
And the first part, I sent them a lot of pictures too. They said send
So
pictures.
can you mention the numbers, what dates was published? Because if people will be interested,
Well, and
they can
Wicked.
go back to the library and
Yes.
just
Okay.
ask for those
This first
newspapers. Yeah.
one was, I of course kept copies.
Yeah.
The first one was on, is this here? July 20th.
July 20th.
Yeah.
And I think, and then week after and week after.
Yeah, and then I think
3
then
weeks.
3 weeks.
Right.
Absolutely. And then there's actually a 4th edition because my art teacher sent an email. She was describing how Cuba had survived the hurricane.
Oh.
You know? And she did a really excellent job of it. So I emailed her. She was in Cuba, you know, running these
So how
trips.
many days it was there?
A week. I was there
A week, 1 week, okay.
So I asked her if we could publish it, and she said of course. So that came out, I guess maybe 2 weeks after.
Oh, I didn't
know.
see that one.
Yeah, and they also included her artwork. She's a really good
Oh,
artist.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
anyhow,
Right.
so I have a picture. So the first picture I did
Yep.
was, of course, the Plaza Vieja, and this is a watercolor I did of it. You can see here. And I first sketched.
Is this one they published in the newspaper also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I did a pencil sketch of it, and then I went back to my room. I started to watercolor it, but I wanted to go back and watercolor it so I can capture the colors. See how bright the colors
Yeah,
are?
it's interesting the combination of different style of architecture. Yeah.
Everything is painted very, very bright. The colors, as you can see here, and
Yeah.
and these are actually cannonballs they planted in here. Yeah, they said if they're put in the ground like that, that mean they're peaceful. That's what they told me. And so you can see the pillar here, and I sat here painting this for I spent a whole morning when it was cooler, and painting
So
this.
how long it would take to do this?
To watercolor it?
Watercolor, yeah.
Oh, okay. I spent probably an hour doing a pencil sketch first, because it's to get it, you know.
Right, right.
Then I went back and I transferred onto watercolor paper. It's a process I have.
Oh,
the sketch.
okay.
And then I started laying out some of the color, but came back, and I had to make some.
How they plant the trees there.
Yeah, the little pots here.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much how it looks. And I was.
And what the period, the plaza itself?
Huh?
What period is that?
This goes back, well, to when it was, you know, Spanish colony, some of it. You know, it's old. It was restored by Castro's government, because Batista was the dictator before, you know, got overthrown. You may recall your history. And he originally had made this a parking lot, and when Castro came in, they restored it to a plaza, which so it's lovely.
What is inside? Did you go inside?
These are all little restaurants
Oh, okay.
all around.
So which one you were eating?
I was actually over here. I never really ate it. I actually sat here and had a drink with my fellow artists here. Yeah, which is really nice. But as I was painting, there was someone tapped me on the shoulder. And it was one of the locals, and he looked at me and he looked at the picture. He said, "Where are the people?" And so I pulled my sketch out. I hadn't put the people in yet. You can see a little bit, Elena, suggestion. Anyway, that's the people. So he's going, "Where are the people?" And I said, "Oh, there's going to be people." And I pulled the sketch out and I went like, "See," and he went like, and he walked off.
Yeah. So that was the day one, and then next.
We went into we drove around one afternoon in the cars, the classic cars, which were really fun. I was in a 1951 Chevrolet Deluxe convertible, and it was a baby blue cut of color. It was really gorgeous. I was in the front, and so and my friends were in the back. So the driver and he's got all the music going, and we're driving around, and I felt like very American Graffiti kind of scene. And I had this big hat on and my sunglasses, so I don't know, I got silly, so I'm waving to everybody as we drive around.
And it's probably beautiful landscapes around.
It's right on, you know, you've got the ocean there, you go by the old fortress, Spanish fortress, and everybody's waving back at me, and we're all waving and driving around, having a grand old time. And what I found out is the reason there's so many of these old cars that are kept pristine, many of them, you know, is that you can't buy a new car in Cuba. The only way you can get a new car if the government gives you one as a reward for, you know, doing something marvelous. So the people have to maintain these old cars. So there's a reason for it, but they're sort of handed down, and people take loving care of them. And of course, the tourists love seeing them because they're just gorgeous, all of them. There's all around. So that was one time, and then we also went into the countryside to see what that was like, and that was beautiful. As you're going along, a lot of people hitchhiking, and you see a lot of bridges that are not complete, like this overpass like this, and then no connecting. And our guide explained to us that when the Russians left, they left a lot of unfinished projects. A lot of these bridges were...
Sorry.
Yeah, so they kind of, you know, they lost it. So that was why we saw that. So we went into the country, and this is actually based on a photograph I took of the countryside, and you can see how beautiful the whole area is. Just beautiful. And you go into the mountains.
And so how close the houses are, because you are already here.
Well, this is the country, not too close. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless it's
and
a little
the fields
village.
with what?
Well, you get into the tobacco, where they're growing the tobacco, and a lot of other, you know, vegetables and things, potatoes, and you see, and mangoes are growing wild everywhere. And just mangoes, you know, which apparently came from China. Somebody from China brought them to Cuba, and the mangoes love the Cuban place to grow. And you have like all these, you know, palm trees everywhere.
Well, it's a banana palm tree, or?
I don't know. I'm not a banana palm tree expert, but that's just all I do is paint it.
Yeah.
Elena. I don't, maybe someone out there knows what this is with type.
Right.
But there's quite a few different types, they told me. So.
Oh, I know. I was start learning, and it's like 350 different types of palm trees. So, yeah.
So while I was there, they had cigars, of course, and so I got dared to smoke one of the Cuban cigars, and I'm being, of course I'll try it. So this big guy, looked like a mafioso guy, he's sitting there, you know, with all this, these cigars around him. And so he's looking at me like this, so I'll try one. So he hands me the cigar, and then he clips it, and then he dips it in honey. So that's what you smoke, and you go in like this, and he lights you up. Well, much to my surprise, when I took the first inhaled it, this is pretty darn good. I mean, I used to hate the smell of cigars, but this is kind of different. They were, so I smoked the whole cigar, Alina.
Wow.
And,
well, you act in person, so you probably were imagining how you will act if you will have a cigar. And
well, one of my characters does smoke a cigarette.
Oh,
one of
see?
mine, she does actually, on a big,
well,
candle holder.
we need to remind our viewers that Laura, our famous actress, performer who does the mono show about famous women, mostly from America, or just American.
They are, except one exception.
Yeah.
One English lady.
Yeah.
Beatrix Potter. But the rest of them are all American. There's Mary Cassatt, the artist. That was my first play.
Right.
Tea with Mary Cassatt.
Someone probably remember the show. We
I
have a
hope so.
little exception. Yeah.
And then I did Isabella Stewart Gardner.
Right.
It's called Mrs. Jack at Fenway Court. A lot of fun playing her.
Yeah.
There's the black velvet and all the jewelry. You know?
Yeah, we had little
I think I did a scene
fragments
for you
there.
once.
Yes.
And then I did Beatrix Potter with a live rabbit. 5 shows with the live rabbit. You need a rabbit wrangler. I think I did it once without the wrangler. That was a bit tricky. I don't advise doing that, but it was a lot of fun.
So we the last show was like 2009, I think, or 2010.
I did one. No, I did one in 2017. No, 16. Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
No, 17.
But I'm just trying to count how
the last
many
one.
you
Oh,
actually did.
Oh, I have done 4, and the last one was Lydia Mariah Child. It's called The
Right.
Ghost of Lydia Mariah Child.
Yeah,
And
so we will see some fragments.
Yes.
Because you said it's recorded.
Yes, it is
Yeah,
recorded.
So the viewers can be watching.
I got to come
after
out
our
in a
interview.
fog. I always wanted to come out in a fog, so I got my wish, so I'd come out like that. And we did that several productions, and one at the McGlynn School, for the students there. And in my 5th play, which will be next year, May 20th, 2018. I'll do it at Grace Church as a premiere, as I usually do. Is all about Dolly Madison, and it's going to be called Dolly Madison, America's First Lady, because she pretty much invented the job. You know, Martha Washington was certainly there, but she pretty much didn't really have. She had some few parties, but really didn't get into the job. And Abigail Adams, I think she was only at the White House for like 1 year, and is famous for hanging up laundry, in the East Room. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
She wasn't too enamored of the job. So when Dolly came in, she actually first was like almost interning for the job, doing it for Jefferson, who was a widower. And then she came and really created quite.
So maybe the show will be in the White House someday.
Well, I would love that.
Yeah, why not? Because see, you did Jackie and museum.
That's right. You gotta think big. You're right, Alina.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's continue about your trip to Cuba.
Oh, this is the last picture I did. I wanted to do an interior, and this was an interesting. I was looking around in the city, and I saw this interior where there's a lot of apartments and all these wires artistically hanging. I mean, obviously not code, but very artistic, I thought. So I went in there to sit down. I asked if it was okay. They said yes. So I sat down and started working on this. And this wonderful little 5-year-old boy came up to me, and he started jammering in Spanish. And so I started speaking to him a little bit, and he wanted to see my pictures. And I was showing them. I think I sketched him, and then he watched me, and then he said to me, he looked at me, he said to me in Spanish, I didn't understand what he said, "I will be your companion." And it was almost solemnly, it was just, I was touched. I was completely won over by this young fellow. So I created this, and it wasn't actually these colors. I think these colors reflect on how I felt about being there. Because it was
sunny, bright,
yes,
and a good mood.
Oh yes, absolutely. And then this is one of those paintings that took on a life of their own, because I noticed. I said, oh, there seem to be different places to go or doors to knock on, and like here, the steps, and all of this. So when I showed this to my fellow artists, I asked them. I said, which door would you knock on? Which one would you go through? And they all had different answers. One said, this one or that or here, or a couple said they'd go up the stairs, and some said they would just stand there. But then I kind of realized it was saying something to me too. It was saying, I chose to open the door to go to Cuba. I didn't play it safe and stay home. I decided I would take that leap of faith, and that's what this picture reminds me. I took that, and then.
So 7 days, and this is the main work you did, or it was more?
Well, there were a lot of sketches too.
Sketches.
This takes a while to do, though, Lena.
Right.
Yeah.
So
at least for me.
the sketches you will be working on and continue.
I'll have to see. There's a few I might further develop, but I'm also researching Dolly Madison now too.
Oh, yeah, okay. So you're working on a new project.
Yeah, but I do like to, when I go visiting places, I journal and I paint, and I try to capture the place. So we'll see.
So what was the biggest impression in general after 7 days, or maybe during this 7 days?
I just loved how friendly all the people were, universally. I mean, I don't know, it just, none of this, people going their own way and not, it was just, people just opened themselves up. You'd be talking to people, before you know it, they're taking out, showing you pictures of their family. Mind you, they just met me.
Right, right. Well, we're all brothers and sisters.
But that's what really touched me. And you see a lot of people helping other people out, which the artist friend Laura wrote about during the storm. There was a lot of people helping people out, which this happened in this country too, of course. Right. But it's just walking down, it sort of reminded me not to always just be into my own business, but maybe look around and be aware and say hola.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
So what else we missed in terms of your stories from Cuba? And then we can go further to talk about your trip cross country.
Oh yeah, that was a trip just before Cuba.
Right.
Let's see. Some of my conclusions about, well, it seems that one thing I learned is that they have a very good educational system. Everybody can get a good education. But their problem, and everybody has health care too, that's the other thing. They all have health care. But the problem,
it's free health care.
Yeah, it's like available to everybody. And the only problem that they're facing is that they can't get high-paying jobs. In fact, I learned that
and they can travel.
Huh?
They cannot travel.
I think it's difficult to get out. I don't know the answer completely to that. But I was hearing from a variety of people there that they can't get high-paying jobs. Even if they're a lawyer or a doctor, they will make more money driving a cab at night than being a doctor. Can you imagine that?
Well, right now, if you use Uber and you talk to drivers, some of them have a higher education also, but they drive an Uber.
Well, this is a common thing. I went into this little shop in Havana, and this not very nice young man was showing me his things, and lo and behold, he told me he was a civil engineer. He was in Havana so he could learn better English. His plan was to get his wife and little baby to Canada. And where he could make some money.
You mean
to move?
Yeah.
He said he really loved his country, Cuba, but there just wasn't a lot of opportunity for him to make, any some good money. So, I heard this story a lot. I mean, a lot of people that they can't get high-paying. If they are a professional, they can't get really high-paying jobs. That kind of thing.
So you said it's a good food.
It's great food there. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent hospitality. Beautiful people.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So, and if you could, you will go back sometime.
I would love to go back. Oh, yeah, I should admit there's music everywhere, too.
Yeah, music, yes.
I mean, wafting around, it's all around you. I mean, and every time you have something to eat, somebody's playing guitar, and that's wonderful. I like that. It's very picturesque if you're an artist or a photographer, it's just a feast for eyes there, and a lot of, that you could paint. I mean, I could go there and paint for a long time, I think. So that's part of it's good. That's what I came. It was very memorable. The whole thing. It is hot though. You have to.
I mean,
keep
it's
in mind.
short. It's actually 7 days. It's a very short period.
Yes, it is short, but we seem to see a lot because Laura really organized this. I also saw some of the.
So how many people were in the group?
There was about 10 of us. It's a small group. So
it's from Massachusetts, or
they were all from Massachusetts. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's open.
So you were one from Medford.
Yes, I'm the only one from Medford.
Yeah.
But there's some people from Cambridge, I know, and just around. I think she does from other parts of the country are doing it. It's called Cuba Adventures, and they organize these trips. And if you get a chance to go, I think one lady did go, and you don't have to be a spectacular artist, okay?
Right.
You can be an okay artist or a beginning artist.
Right.
That's because the point is to go there and just try to.
So how much it cost in general, the whole trip?
That would be a couple $1,000 for that. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have the exact amount.
Okay.
You have to ask my husband. He keeps track of those things. He let me go.
Okay.
But
the tickets were not that expensive.
no, I don't think it was too expensive. Yeah, you just fly to Miami, and it's just 45-minute ride.
But right
there.
now, I think you mentioned that it's not that easy.
Well, so far it's okay. It's not hard to go. I don't think you have to go with a group.
Yeah.
And while nobody stopped me and asked me what group I was with the whole time I was there, at all.
So nobody stopped and asked your passport or something.
No.
Okay.
No.
And you felt safe.
Very safe. In fact, I think I felt the safest there. Oh, I should have mentioned how you get around. They have these wonderful bike taxis. These little, riding, pedaling the bikes. You get in there,
yes.
and you go whizzing down all these little roads, cobblestones in the old part.
We have in Boston also right now.
Now there's a lot of them there in Cuba, and that's a great way to get around because you can give them like where you have to go. I would write it out maybe like that, and then he would go.
So did you go to a museum like Havana Museum?
Yes, they have a beautiful museum there. Sure did. It was a gorgeous museum. It was a modern museum with beautiful work there. And
did she take you to the artist studios, local ones?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She took us to several of the artist studios. They're really big into making prints.
Oh yeah.
Printing is like the #1 thing, but there was several other artist studios we went to, and that was very interesting.
It's just because probably people can afford the print, and they can afford maybe oil painting.
It might be that. It just seems to be so much printing going on. A lot of that seems to what they're going into, and you have that. There's dance is also very popular. There's the salsa dance.
Yeah,
we had some lessons.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I remember because I was reading all this.
Did you read it? Oh, I can tell you read it. Yeah.
Yeah, I read all the stories. Yeah, and then I think there was a picture of the local artist you visited his studio.
Oh yes, there was one of the. He was a very interesting man. He had this long. I wanted to paint him. He was just really interesting, and he.
So you mostly working with watercolors, not oil.
I work with watercolor. Yes.
Okay.
Most everybody in this group were doing watercolor.
How many years you were studying watercolor?
Off and on. You see, if I had just kept it up.
Yeah.
My grandmother was an artist, and she kept telling me I should keep going. And so Grandma, she's long gone now, but I just wanted to know that I intend not to stop this time, Grandma.
That's great.
I'm going to keep painting.
That's good.
But I like to draw all the time. I do meet with the Malden Sketchers on.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I remember when we spoke.
Monday nights, like 2 hours working with models.
Yeah.
So I get better with my life drawing.
Right.
I've been doing that, but I got to get another class, watercolor class, because then you start painting more when you're in a class.
So well, let's talk about the trip before Cuba.
Oh yes. I had to go to California because of family business, but I said to my husband, he just retired, so he has more time. Let's not just fly to California. Let's take the train. Let's go all the way across by train. And he said, that's a great idea. So we looked into it, and you can get like a little cabin with places to sleep. It basically pulls down. You have like sleeping car, right? And it's great. It comes with meals. You have a dining car and everything. So we got in Boston, went down there and got on the train and went to to Chicago, and then we had to change to another train that went all the way across. It was spectacular, especially when you start getting into the Colorado River, following that around. It's just gorgeous scenery, and then getting into the Rocky Mountains.
And you photographed, and maybe someday you will do some painting also. Like
Yes.
watercolors.
Oh, I took a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
We all did. It was just.
And you did sketches also when you were in the
I
train?
did some. I did some. And in California.
But you didn't stop, right? You just were going through.
We just wanted to see the countryside, and we were somewhat retracing the path I had taken many years ago when I drove from California to Boston.
Well, because your mom is there in San Francisco.
That's my family. I'm a Californian originally.
Okay.
I'm a transplant.
Okay.
That's why I'm not dropping all my R's or adding them here and there. Like my husband, who is from here.
Yeah.
So I basically, a number of years ago, I just got in. I left the promised land. I got in my car and driving east, and landed here, and met my husband the second week I was here. Even though I swear I was not looking for anybody. I told my grandmother, I'm done. I just broke up with somebody. Men are it's just too much trouble. I'm just gonna just get a little job and do my thing, and that's it. And then lo and behold, I went folk dancing at MIT, which I was in folk dancing then. And my husband, Steve Duggan, asked me to dance, and that was it.
You're still dancing?
Yes, we are. We still love to dance.
So how long that trip was? Another week, right?
That was a week. Yeah, that was about. Let's see. We went a day and a half to Chicago and 3 days across, and so that goes a little bit faster. And that was. I would recommend it.
But you were flying back.
I flew back. Yes.
Yeah.
I figured going across once by train, I would probably have enough train by then, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, we were going to take a train up to Washington State, but something happened with the train. We couldn't, so we flew up. But because I have a niece that's in Spokane. It's pronounced Spokane, I found out. I kept saying Spokane. My niece, no, Aunt Laura, that's wrong. So, yeah, Spokane. Okay, I hope you got that, if she's listening. Yeah, so that was great. You have a steward that comes every night on the train, and what he does is he assembles it, because we were not in the most expensive, luxurious sleeper car. We got the cheaper one, And so the two chairs below make into a bed, and then there's another one. You have to kind of climb up, another one that they pulls down like this. It comes down, and you have to climb up and slither into that.
Okay.
And that's where I slept, because there was no way my 6-foot husband was going to make it up there. No way.
Yeah.
So I would tell people that doing that, make sure somebody is about 5'1" or 5'2". Okay.
Do you need to buckle up?
Yeah, they have like some things that go around it. So
no, because I remember how we were traveling to Europe, and we were in a sleeping car going from I think it was from Spain to France, and we're going through the Alps. And my son was excited because you need to buckle up even in a bed which is low level, still you need to buckle up.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah, he was so excited.
Sounds like fun.
Well, we were telling our viewers that they can find in the library all these 3 issues, and plus the issue of your instructor, where she was talking about was it hurricane, you said?
Right.
Yeah.
The hurricane.
So, and there they can see your drawing. The watercolors also. They copy. They may
pictures.
Be not, right. They may be not exactly. Yeah. I see this one just the black and white.
Yes.
Yeah. And then hopefully we will see someday sketches or watercolors from the previous trip to cross country to San Francisco, and then we will be showing our viewers some fragments from your show.
The last play, the Ghost of Lydia Mariah Child. Yes.
And in this one, I was reading that the family who lived in lives right now in that house of Marie Child, right?
Oh yeah, the family basically contacted me,
right?
And they found out about me on the internet, I guess, and invited my husband and I to come to the home of Lydia Mariah Child, which is in Wayland. She was born in Medford, 1802. Down, Blue Fuji, that was a bakery at one point.
Right.
Her father was a baker,
Uh-huh.
and she was born there. They need to put a plaque there, by the way.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think,
I
yeah.
agree.
Anyway, near the end of her life, the last 20 years, her father bought a house in Wayland on Old Sudbury Road, and they invited my husband and I to come, and which was really fun. It's, you have like the old part, and then they've added on to it. And the lady there said that she believes that Lydia Mariah Child does make visits. That there's that her ghost is still very much in that house, and described several incidents to that fact. And so that was very interesting to hear. It was fun. I'll mention.
But
that,
I think you mentioned you probably will be performing there also.
They're going to show the on Lydia Mariah Child's birthday, which is February 11th. They're going to have a big party in Wayland for her.
Oh.
And I was trying to organize one here in Medford, you know, too. We have to see how that goes. But there's definitely.
And it probably will be at your church.
I've been trying to reach the Medford Historic Society. I thought they might want to, but we'll see how that goes. But the Wayland Historic Society, who, by the way, helped me a lot when I was researching the play. They have a lot of her artifacts and a lot of her letters, and they were so generous with me on helping me. Anyway, they're going to have a big party in Wayland in the afternoon on February 11th. Have a big birthday cake, and they're going to show the video of my show, The Ghost of Lydia Mariah Child, you know?
Yeah.
And then there'll be Q&A with Jane Scalicia, who's the big expert on Lydia Mariah Child from the Historic Society, and myself. She and I were going to be doing some Q&A about, of course, when I write these plays, I research them,
Right.
I write them,
Yeah.
and I'm looking for the story. What is the story? I go in with questions. It's like a treasure hunt, you know, to find out about these people. And I'm always so impressed when I do find out all these things. And my plays are basically to put the light on all these accomplished, or as I call, remarkable women who have often been overlooked by the history books.
But now we're going beyond Massachusetts with
Yes.
Dolly.
With Dolly, of
Yeah.
course. She's born in North Carolina, but she's considers herself a Virginian. But anyway, it's just, I really think we need to have more focus on the women, and there's been plenty of remarkable ones out there, and they just have not gotten the attention that they certainly deserve. And that's what my plays are all about, to do that. And as a former history teacher, you do pick up a lot of history along the way.
Absolutely, you need to educate yourself more in terms to write the play.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Well, my pleasure.
Yeah, and I hope my viewers enjoy as I did, the same as much that I did. So, and we will see you next time with my new guest. And thank you, TV3.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shifted slow over the river and through the wood. Oh, how the wind does blow! It stings and tows and bites the nose as over the ground we go.
How lovely to hear my words sung again. I am the ghost of Lydia Mariah Child. Actually, I prefer to be called Mariah. In fact, I made that official by having myself rebaptized. I wonder if you know what else I wrote besides that poem about crossing the Mystic River and going through some Medford wood? Probably not. Well, it's not your fault. History was written by men in my time and for a very long time after. So you don't always hear about the ladies. Do you know that in the spirit world, Abigail Adams is still complaining to her husband, President John Adams, not to forget the ladies? I could tell you my story. Would that suit you? Yes. Oh, good. I was born in Medford, Massachusetts on February 11th, 1802, the youngest of 6 children born to Susanna and Converse Francis. Father was a baker. No doubt you've heard of his famous Medford crackers. as Thanksgiving was one of the few bright memories of my childhood. We will go there first. Pleased to meet you. I'm known as Ma'am Betty. I run a dame school here in Medford. I teach children 5 to 7 in my bedroom for 12 cents a week. My room's a bit untidy, but never you mind. Little Lydia and her older brother Converse were my students. They both learned their ABCs from me. I adore that young man Converse. The only thing I like better than him is cheese. Excuse me, what did you say? Oh, you want to know more about Lydia? Well, I must say that Converse's little sister is also very bright. Too bad all her book reading won't take her anywhere. No doubt Converse will attend Harvard. A local minister is going to talk Mr. Francis into sending the boy. So nice of the Francis family to once again invite me to their pre-Thanksgiving dinner. Also here we have, oh yes, the washerwoman. And there's the berry woman and the wood sawyer, several journeyman bakers, and about 20 other humble folk from the community. How did you come to be invited? Oh, you're new here and don't know anyone in Medford. Now, isn't that just like the Francis family, always including some friendless soul? Well, I must take my leave. Don't want to miss out on getting some bread or Medford crackers to take home with me. Be sure to get some for yourself. And ask Mrs. Francis for one of her delicious pies. Goodbye and happy Thanksgiving. Mother died last night. She's been bedridden for so long. Consumption. I'm not ready for this. I'm only 12 years old. Everyone else has grown up and gone away. There's only my cranky old father left. And making things worse, though, just last night, when Mother asked me for a drink of water, I told her, get someone else to do it. Oh, Mother, I'm so sorry. Now, Father's talking about sending me to Maine to live with Mary, my older married sister. He wants to banish me to some wilderness on the Kennebunk. Father says he doesn't understand me and that I'm not like other girls. Maybe he's right. Some gypsies must have changed me from some other cradle and put me in a place I do not belong. At least Converse has promised to write me from Harvard. My brother gets the university, and I get exiled. All I have is Mother's bonnet